Hey guys, it's Thermal Grease Monkey here, and I'm back once again with another video. In this video, I'm going to be testing another GTX 1060. Some of you on the channel might be going, another GTX 1060? Last week you tested the GTX 1060 6GB, and a month before that you tested the 1060 3GB. What other 1060s are there? Well, there was one that we never got in the States. It was very prevalent in the Asian markets, in China, Japan, Taiwan, at internet cafes. Internet cafes essentially would be where you would go in, you rent a PC for a few hours or for the day, however long. You would game on the PC, pay them to borrow it, you sign into your account, you'd play whatever game you decide to play, and then you'd sign out of your stuff and you go home. And it would save you not having to buy a PC and the electricity cost. So for some people, it was very lucrative and very popular, again, in Asian markets, not really popular here. And there was one graphics card, one version of the GTX 1060 that Nvidia made more specifically for these Asian markets. And it was this, the GTX 1060 5GB. A few of the manufacturers like Asus and Gigabyte made cards like this for internet cafes, and it's very similar to the 1060 6GB, right? Same amount of cores, 1,280 cores, and same amount of TMUs, 80 TMUs, but there are a couple of differences, a couple of cut downs. We have less ROPs going from 48 to 40. Obviously, the VRAM cut down going from 6 gigs of GDDR5 VRAM to 5 gigs of GDDR5. And the bus width is going to get cut down because of that, going from a 192-bit bus to a 160-bit bus. So there's going to be a small performance difference between them, but it's still very similar card. So can this one make sense? Well, I wanted to put it through the same gauntlet I put the 1060 6GB in from last week through. So I paired it with the same system, Ryzen 5 1600X, 16 gigs of 2666 megahertz RAM, and we put it through the same three games, CS2, Marvel Rivals, and Forza Horizon 5. Without further ado, we'll kick it off with CS2. 1080p, very high settings. We averaged 73 FPS with 39 for the 1% lows. Probably not how I would play the game, wanting a over 60 FPS experience most of the time, especially in a competitive game like this where graphics aren't really making a big difference for you. Very high, not recommended. At high, it's much better, 104 for our average, 56 for the 1% lows, but probably still would want a little bit more. At medium, we're at 143 FPS with 85 for the 1% lows. We're at least above 60 here. And low, which is probably where most people are going to want to run it for a competitive game like this, 169 for our averages and 88 for our 1% lows. Overall, of course, it can run CS2. Even though CS2 has gotten a lot more demanding, it is still more than capable of playing a game like this, especially on hardware of this caliber. The second game, though, I think will cause some problems. Marvel Rivals. Now, I had to put this 1080p FSR3 performance to give us our absolute best chance. I threw it on Ultra just to see what it would look like, and we averaged 19 FPS with 9 FPS for the 1% lows. Essentially a slideshow. At high, it made things a lot better. 32 FPS with 16 for the 1% lows. Wouldn't really say it was a very good and playable experience, though. Medium, a little bit of extra performance. 36 for the averages, 19 for the 1% lows. At low, we finally have a plus 30 FPS experience. 47 for the averages, 36 for the 1% lows. But probably not where I would want to be playing this game, especially for a fast-paced game like Marvel Rivals. If we turn everything down, though, the lowest, turn everything down to lowest or off or performance, we average 65 FPS with 50 for the 1% lows. For a quick comparison for the GTX 1060 6GB, I'll throw up those numbers right next to it. It's a few FPS more, 67 or 68 for the averages, and the 1% lows are 53, a 2 to 3 FPS difference across the board. It is essentially a 1060 6GB through and through. It just has, again, a slight cut down, so a little less performance. But yes, you can play Marvel Rivals. If you put it at the lowest graphic settings, it might be a little rough and you might be looking for a bit more performance, but it is playable. And finishing it off here is Forza Horizon 5. 1080p Extreme 8X MSA, not recommended. 28 for the averages, 23 for the 1% lows. A kind of a stuttery-ish slideshow. Ultra 8X MSA, we're averaging 34 FPS with 26 for the 1% lows. A very cinematic experience, but not a very good gaming experience. At high with 4X MSA, 62 for our averages, 49 for the 1% lows. If you're okay with having a, sub 60 FPS experience, but having all the graphics and stuff in a racing game, then this can be where you would be playing at. Medium with 2X MSA is probably where I would be playing at. 73 for the averages, 57 for the 1% lows. A nice mix of graphics and performance. At low with MSA turned off, we get 90 FPS with 73 for the 1% lows for people who want a plus 60 FPS experience. And if you want every single frame possible, at very low with MSA turned off, 113 FPS with 86 for our 1% lows. Overall, of course, you can play Forza Horizon 5. If you can play it on a 1063 gig, you can definitely play it on the 1065 gig. So overall, would I say this is a fantastic buy? No, absolutely not. I mean, I had to pay $80 for this because I bought it from China. I had to get it shipped here. So $80 is definitely not worth it for this. But I saw this and I really wanted to try it. I had heard about this card before, but I have never tried it. And I just really wanted to see what the performance was like on it. And it is essentially, it's a 1060, right? A 1066 gig. You lose 1 gig of VRAM. You have a smaller bus width. You lose some ROPS and a little bit of bandwidth. And in turn, it has you lose a little bit of performance, but nothing too notable. On average, it's like 5 to 15 FPS across the board, depending on the graphics and the game that you're playing. So it's pretty close. If you're able to save a few bucks, I mean, it could make some sense, but it's not what I would actively go seek. If you find one, it's a cool card to have, something that we never got here in the States, and it's still usable. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video of me investigating a card that we never had here in the States, another version of the GTX 1060. If you guys enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. If you didn't, you can feel free to the dislike button. Totally understand. If you guys are enjoying my content, if you guys can hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you guys get notifications from my videos are going up. And again, if you guys can leave me some comments. I always love hearing feedback of videos you guys want to see, hardware you want tested, and maybe having me look for hardware that we've never had here in the States, right? Stuff that was sold in other countries, maybe in Europe, maybe in the Asian market. I'd be more than happy to test out graphics cards like that because I'm always interested to see how some of those cards still perform, if they make sense, and what the gaming experience was like. So I hope you guys enjoyed though, and I will see all of you guys next week. Later, guys.